another Web Geeks. Thank you all very much for coming out. Again, this is Web Geek community. We try our hardest to focus on new trends and techniques within software engineering, software development. Anything under the sun is what we would talk about. Sometimes we talk about CSS business. Sometimes we talk about just process and practices and those kind of things. Other times we really dig into frameworks and the nitty gritty of hardcore development. Sometimes our talks are like what is today, like a presentation. Other times it'll be a discussion. Sometimes we'll even do little hackathon kind of code challenges. It's all up in the air, and this is absolutely your community. So if there are things that you want to see us do, if there's topics or issues you want us to discuss, please throw that out there and let us know. We want to create and craft content that you all want to experience and be engaged in. You can find information about what we're going to do, when we're going to do it on LinkedIn. I think we primarily hit up LinkedIn now. I think Twitter's kind of dead. There may be a Facebook page. We do have a blog. That thing still exists. DSMWebGeeks.com. You can check that out as well. And we have a Slack group, and the Slack group does exist. It's not like the super active thing, but it is a way that anybody in your community can chat with another person in your community. So if you want to join in to the Slack DSM Web Collective is what it's called, hit me up and let me know. And lots of other user groups are in there, not just DSM Web Geeks. So I can get you into that thing if you're not already. This group meets once a month, second Monday every month, and we can always use speakers, so please hit us up. The other things I'd say, Ben, you want to say a few things about just like, source allies and those kind of stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, well, welcome everybody. I've been co-organizing Des Moines Web Geeks with Justin for the last, 3.5 years. It's been a long time, but we're happy to host you here at Source Allies. Please take some pizza if you want. Pop or some adult beverages in that electrical room. There's a fridge. You can grab anything you like. Wi-Fi is up there on the whiteboard, and restrooms are upstairs through that doorway, and take a right. I'm Ben. I'm a recruiter here at Source, and love to shake your hand after if we haven't met. Thanks for coming.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So why don't we jump into it? Today, I'm going to talk to you all about extreme programming. Specifically, this talk is kind of like, I don't know, like we're going to stick pretty close to the book Extreme Programming. This is what we're talking about. It's kind of like, I don't know if you want to call it a book review or whatever, but I'm specifically talking about the concepts within this. I hear an echo. Means this dude had his volume up. It doesn't anymore. I think we're okay now. Yeah, so let me start my slides too. Okay, cool. So yeah, so this is not supposed to be like an exhaustive, in-depth, you're not going to walk away with this completely understanding the concepts within extreme programming. I just need you all to be aware of it and be practitioners of it so that you can use it in your daily life and then dig in further. I'm going to give you as much as you need to be able to do that, but there's certainly a wealth of information out there that you can dig in further and find out more about. This is just kind of like an overview talk, if you will. Okay, so before we dig in to everything, it's important to note that like specifically what we're talking about. There are a few, there's two editions of this thing out there. The first edition is not very good. It's missing a lot, and you could probably find it for free as a PDF with a pretty easy search, but it's not really worth your time. The book that we are specifically talking about is Extreme Programming. The Extreme Programming Explained, Embrace Change. This is the second edition, and it's by Kent Beck. If you can find that book, I would strongly recommend it. I bought this thing for like $3 on Amazon. Cost $5 shipping, so whatever. But it's easy to find still, and I would encourage you to do it. You should have this book. You should refer to it often, or at least read it, or whatever. I am an Audible person, but this thing is not on Audible, so that kind of sucks. I had to manually read it like it was a freaking dinosaur age. The book is great though. The first edition, stay away from that. You should know that some of this is probably going to seem redundant. A lot of these practices and principles and things that this book talks about, you already do, or you have heard about. The book was created and published late 90s. It's been out there for so long that a lot of what we do today is based on some of these principles and practices. And before that, decades before, Kent Beck and his buddies took all the best practices and the things we did through the many years of software development and put it all together and kind of like created this, what you could call as a framework or an ideology or just like this best practices package. It's a collection of all the things that we should do. The other important thing to understand is that this is kind of within the Agile world a little bit, but the Agile process depends on XP. XP does not depend on Agile. So you can do Agile without XP. It's just not going to be great. It's going to be kind of crappy, actually. And that's not me saying that. That's the author of this book and other authors out there that talk about Agile and those processes. XP is, kind of like the core values and everything you need to be a confident and successful developer in your career. And it's, you don't need Agile for that. Agile is just like an aid to this. All right. So, who is this for? Who would care about this? Who's the audience here? So XP is a flexible framework useful for a wide range of team sizes, from solo developers to large multi-team projects. It provides concepts that can scale with your code base and your team size. So if you're a single developer working on your own stuff, you do freelance, you do consulting on the side, whatever. You can absolutely use the concepts within extreme programming. You will find lots of benefit and lots of value out of that. If you're on a giant team that you can share a pizza with, you can also use every bit of extreme programming, and everyone will benefit and see value out of that. What is XP used for? So by adopting XP, developers can create software that is more reliable, robust, and of a higher quality. So the core outcomes, the thing that you're going to get by using this book and putting these principles and these practices into play, is that your work will be of higher quality. At least that's what it professes. If you want to build applications, scalable applications that are easier to use, easier to maintain, if you want to make your quality of life better just because you implement these practices, this is a good book. This book is for you. This book will do that for you. And finally here, why? Why in the heck would you even want to approach or pick up this book? So the core of XP lies in treating software development as a craft. It encourages developers to take on a higher level of responsibility and care, leading to more meaningful and impactful work. So within this book, there's many references to like doctors and like this ethical code and lots of other kind of founders or authors at this time that talk about DevOps in general and agile process. They all kind of talk about this as as something more than just a 9 to 5 job. This is you're going to take what you do as a little bit more of an understanding of this is a craft, this is a trade, this is something that you put the time into, and it's kind of elevated by that means. The the other thing that you get out of this that I'm not really going to touch a whole lot on, but it's stated in the book, and it's a really big, important thing that I think you get out of extreme programming is that as a software engineer practicing extreme programming, you are also in the position of no longer I don't know, destroying yourself. I guess I'll say it that way. You don't have to work overtime. You don't have to carry a giant burden of, oh my God, is that going to work tomorrow? You have some kind of peace of mind and some kind of ease. You could take vacation if you want, and another developer on your team will know how to do the work because you're all practicing XP. Like, there's so many benefits out of this that go beyond just producing quality code, and that really can't be like overstated. That is a huge part of this, and something that I think just on its own is worth adopting, because I don't know. I think you guys should all take vacations a lot. Okay. So now let's talk about like what is actually XP, what extreme programming. Extreme programming is a social and technical approach to software development. It advocates for discarding outdated habits, focusing on teamwork, and embracing core values like communication and respect. XP adapts to changing requirements, mitigates risks, and fosters both personal and professional growth, leading to better relationships, productivity, and high quality values, or high quality software. Sorry. So that's a lot that it professes to implement, but again, the book covers quite a bit. So I'll go through these as a core philosophy. So extreme programming, or XP, is more than a set of technical rules. It's about creating a culture that fosters positive social change by helping us let go of old habits that hinder productivity. And I should note that I'm not going to go in too in depth on all these extra things that the book talks about. It's easy to extract from this book the practices. Those are the tangible things that I think we all kind of understand. But to really understand the values and the principles, I would suggest, you're probably going to have to sit with this for a minute and kind of understand it more in reading the text. But it's in that comes about this social change and this kind of like understanding of how a team functions in conjunction with each other, that you really understand that part of it. XP is built on 5 core values that act as a compass for everything you do. And that would be communication, feedback, simplicity, courage, and respect. We'll go back to those later, but those are like kind of like self-help type concepts there that sound very like self-helpish, but really all of this, I promise, is couched somehow within software development. One of the most powerful aspects of XP is its emphasis on team dynamics. It's all about working as one unified team where trust and vulnerability are key. When we feel safe to share our ideas and concerns, we build better relationships and create more successful projects together. And kind of like I'm saying, like it's hard to really overstate how the book gets at these things or talks about these things. But one really big core tenet of this book is ensuring that how you approach work, how you talk to each other, how you set up your environment is inclusive and it is fostering healthy communication and a safe environment. It's not a safe environment if at the end of the sprint in your retro, nobody feels like they can speak up or talk about some of the habits that they didn't like. That's not cool. XP tries to get you to a point where everyone can participate and everyone feels safe participating. What makes XP truly special is that it's an adaptive methodology. It doesn't force you into a rigid box. Instead, it's designed to adapt to the ever-changing requirements and environments we face every day. The flexibility makes it incredibly scalable no matter the size of your team. But also in Agile, you know, if we're building software with very low requirements, we don't really know what the heck we're producing yet. Their Extreme Programming XP talks about cycle of how things work and feedback and keeping things simple, and it helps you step into situations where you have low information and step into situations where you have, you know, everything you need. It kind of like equips you to handle most cases. And then XP also offers an approach to risk management. By using short development cycles, getting continuous feedback, and relying on automated testing, we can proactively mitigate risks. This means we can catch problems early before they become major issues. And this again is like cycled, you know, your sprints, doing demos, pushing to prod often and early. But all this is to say, like, these practices, when put into concert, when put together, they should allow you as developer on a team to not have to be the one person that everyone is relying upon. Everyone else should be able to be should be able to help and take over in any situation. And because you're getting continuous feedback, you should always know what's happening and what you're working toward. All of these things kind of go to improve the quality of life. I keep saying it that way, but I mean that's what it is to me on your software builds. And then finally, XP is about personal and professional growth. It encourages us to take ownership of our work and continuously improve. So right now, me giving this talk is me practicing XP. So I'm up here talking about XP, practicing XP, and this is like, you know, this is helping me understand the material. It's helping me know how to talk. It's hopefully helping all of y'all. This is an important part of, if we go back to that concept of saying that software development, this engineering, this job is a craft. This is our craft. In order to get better at your craft, you need to probably read some books. You need to probably go to some talks. Just like you guys are all doing today, you're improving your craft by participating in this. Hopefully, unless it sucks, and then I apologize. Okay, so I'm going to go through the values, the principles, and the practices outlined in XP. I'm not going to go through every single one because there are a ton, and some of them are kind of goofy. So I'll just stick to the key ones and cherry pick what I like out of the book, to be honest with you. So the values, or the why. So you have to have a core set of values to just have some kind of buy-in or reasoning to why in the heck we're doing any of this. And these values, if you kind of go back to, they should answer why you're continuously putting any of this in practice, or putting any effort at all into this stuff. So values represent the underlying beliefs and priorities that guide why you perform certain practices. They are the roots of your actions. And I'm intentionally using the word roots there. The book, I don't know, maybe Kent was a gardener. I don't think so, but he keeps using the metaphor of gardening. So I had to point that out because I'm going to do it again, and it would seem odd if like you didn't even notice that I said roots. Anyway, such as valuing communication or learning, which give purpose to what we do. Without clear values, practices can become mechanical and lose their meaning. So the core values of extreme programming are communication, simplicity, feedback, courage, and respect. These values guide decision-making and team interactions throughout the development process, emphasizing open collaboration, prioritizing the simplest solution, actively seeking feedback, having the bravery to make necessary changes, and treating all team members with respect. So there you have it. Those are the core values. Here they are here. Now, out of this list, probably simplicity is the one that might need a little bit more description around, because I think we all understand communication, feedback. You have feedback in so many things within software development, and I think we all know what that is. Courage maybe could use a little bit further of explanation, but I think we all get the idea of this. You kind of have to live in courage, in my opinion, and then respect, I think we know what that is, but simplicity. So this is probably the most mentally intense concept. Simplicity is relative to the project and the team, and only makes sense in that context. So by using the subjective qualities of, is it testable, is it understandable, is it browsable, and explainable. This is an acronym that Beck describes as TUBE. One can assess its simplicity. So in this software build, in this code base, can our developers on our team explain it to someone else? If they can, then we're green. We're in the good. If they can't explain it, then we're not doing something right. Something is wrong. This is a code smell. That's kind of the concept of simplicity. Okay, so the practices. These are probably the things that we're all most familiar with. So practices, these are the specific everyday actions you perform, like writing tests for before changing code in software development, or digging and planting a seed in a garden. Okay, so it's metaphor. They are clear, objective tasks that you can start with, even if you haven't yet grasped the deeper meaning behind them. So, for example, writing tests before changing the code. Okay, so I'm going to use a little bit of a metaphor to help understand some of these core practices within XP. And I'm going to borrow some examples from another writer, author, Robert C. Martin, who wrote Clean Agile. So hopefully y'all are familiar with this one. Again, super cheap. It's $3. I mean, if you buy it brand new, it's not cheap, but you can find this used and it's cheap. In this book, I feel like, so I think Robert or Uncle Bob, whatever you want to call him, I think he is a little bit better of a writer. I think Kent is like not the best writer. So XP is kind of a challenge to really get a hold of, I'd say. You can understand the practices and whatnot, but there's some that he kind of falls short on. Clean Agile does a really good job of helping as like a as an aid to extreme programming and really understanding these concepts. So anyway, I'm going to use this concept of the circle of life, which is Ron Jeffries developed this, and all these authors that I've just mentioned are also the core developers of not agile DevOps. These dudes like know what they're talking about, and they're like the OGs. So if software engineering had like some kind of theory, some kind of like underlying ideology to learn, like this is where that theory comes from. If you want to think about it that way. So in this ring, this circle of life of a project of software engineering, software development, this is how we're going to use a metaphor to think about these practices within XP. So the outer ring, we're going to call this as the business-facing practices. This ring is focused on the relationship between the development team and the business side, similar to the scope of like Scrum. So planning game, you've got that far off on the side. It says planning game. The planning game practice plays the central role of this ring. It tells us how to break down a project into features, stories, and tasks. It provides guidance for the estimation, prioritization, and scheduling of those features, stories, and tasks. And yes, like the book goes through and explains on how to do this, which is very important. As a software engineer, you should know and understand this concept. You should be able to perform this task. Again, if you do not have a delivery lead or a account manager or somebody helping you set up your sprints, do all these things, you need to jump in and you need to be able to do that. And that's kind of like this whole team concept. The small releases, delivering working software to the customer in short, frequent increments. Kind of you understand that one. Acceptance tests. These provide the definition of done. Tests written from the customer's perspective to verify that a feature is complete. And then finally, whole team. The idea that all roles, developers, testers, product owners, etc., are part of a single collaborative team. Again, these concepts are more fleshed out within the book. So if you have questions on these, I'd encourage you to go there. I can answer any questions if you want, but we'll go on. So the middle ring, this is the team-facing practices. So these practices provide the framework for how the development team communicates with and manages itself. So a sustainable pace, working at a consistent, maintainable speed that allows for long-term productivity and avoids burnout. And again, throughout this book, there's many points where, you know, if you adopt these practices or if you really look into how this thing works, it can help. It can help a lot. And if burnout is something that you honestly are suffering from or experiencing, I would encourage you to read this book ASAP. Collective ownership. All team members are responsible for all parts of the code. Anyone can change any part of the system at any time. This one's obvious, like if you are a single developer on a single software project, you're the code owner. You own every aspect of everything. But if you're on a team with other people, you have to share that responsibility and you should know how to do and work every part of that project. Continuous integration, integrating code changes frequently to avoid complex, painful merges later on. And then I'm sure we all understand how to do that. And then metaphor, this one's probably more complicated, using a shared unifying story or an analogy to describe how the system works. And metaphor is kind of a little bit of a complicated one to be able to explain. Um, but it is oh so very important. And especially on a team, it's really helpful if you all have some way to communicate in some kind of like shared understanding. It's a practice explained here much better than I can do in the book, but something you should definitely be aware of. The innermost ring is programmer facing practices. These practices are for individual programmers to ensure the highest level of technical quality. So this entails pair programming, where two developers working together at one computer, one writes code while the other reviews and offers suggestions. Hopefully you all are pair programming. If not, hopefully you can. Simple design, always striving for the simplest possible solution that meets the current needs. And then test-driven development, or TDD, a development process where you write a failing test, write just enough code to pass it, and then refactor. And like that one bullet or that one that one piece right there is pretty big. That's a huge part of software engineering and what we do. And test-driven development shapes a lot. And I would say that like you can learn about test-driven development, TDD, within this book, but there are many other books that I would encourage you to read about TDD and maybe put that in practice. Maybe do one of those coding dojos that we have done here, and just push yourself to do some TDD. It's an incredible useful tool. And then finally, out of these principles or core principles within extreme programming, we have principles. I didn't say that right, but so acting as a bridge between values and practices, principles are the domain-specific guidelines that help translate abstract values into concrete actions. So, for example, if you happen to have a garden, let's say, all right, and someone says, yo, if you plant your marigolds right next to your strawberries, it would help with pest control. Okay, cool. So you just do the thing as a practice. The principle of companion planting, right? That's using the marigolds to repel pests from the strawberries. So companion planting informs the practice of planting them together. So you could imagine if you learn about companion planting, there's probably some other stuff that you could do that is not just marigolds and strawberries, right? So for another example, to put it within our realm, the principle of simple design informs the practice of writing the simplest possible code to pass a test. Okay. So all this that I've gone through helps describe and explain, the crux of this book, kind of the core values and the principles and the practices and the values and all these things that hopefully you'll take from this book and understand. I'm going to go through just a few more slides on like picking out some of these practices that we can look at in a little bit more detail and maybe even talk about just a tiny bit. So I might pose a question, for example, on one of these practices. There are many practices within XP, but the practices we're going to talk about, there are many practices in XP. There's pair programming, continuous integration, test-driven development, incremental design, shared code, code refactoring, simple design, and then collective code ownership. So let's start with collective code ownership. What I'm curious about is what steps can we take to ensure collective code ownership as a practice is implemented effectively in our projects. And I'm curious if anyone has any thoughts on this, or if anyone has ever used or implemented, or I don't know if you guys live in a project with where code ownership is something talked about and pushed for, but I'm curious if you all have any examples of this in your projects, or if you were going to move toward this, what are some things you would have to adopt? Or I don't know. Are there any thoughts out there? It had it in theory. Yeah. I dig it. Yeah. So maybe maybe in that process there were gates on who could touch what or who could mess with what. Maybe there was infrastructure that no one could have access to per se. And so one way you could implement code ownership is by removing that barrier and bringing some other engineers into that world and allowing them to see it. Then who knows? Maybe that one dude that does all the infrastructure stuff could take a day off. That might be kind of nice for that person. I don't know. And I don't know if anybody else has any. That's a great example. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts. Mhm. Yeah, great example there. Yeah, and that would create silos. And so we've got situations where uh, if a feature needs to be implemented or something needs to be worked on or something broke, we have one person only that can maintain, manage, or address that problem, which puts us into a really awful situation because I desperately want to take vacation and I can't because I got to do the one thing that this guy can't do. Yeah, that's awful. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and with collective code ownership. The entire team is responsible for the system's design. Every team member can review and update code. This prevents code duplication and helps team members know where to add new features. This fosters cooperation and openness to new ideas within the team, which is really important too, because if everybody owns an aspect of the code, if everybody has a hand in it, when we get to things like our retros or when we try to talk about what can be improved within the system, like you have other perspectives, you have other opinions. So yeah, that's a good thing. Thank you. Okay, test-driven development now as another one. So this kind of addresses, write only the necessary code and avoid adding code just in case. So if you're writing tests for everything, you're not writing too much. You're just writing what you need. Um, the difficulty in writing a test indicates a design problem. Um, uh, Clean working code with automated test builds trust among team members. And test first programming provides a clear next step and develops an efficient cycle of testing code and refactoring. And so, kind of curious on this one. Like implementing or working in a test-driven environment, does anybody know um, if there would be any indicators of success or measurements that you could point to? Is there anything that anybody could think of that might be beneficial with test-driven development if you were practicing it? Yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So the test coverage being there or allows you to be more efficient later on. If you have to step back into a code base, if you need to implement a brand new feature, understanding that that code base is well tested gives you the confidence to make those changes. Yeah, 100%. That's a huge benefit and makes you speed up. Yep. Yes, exactly. Yes, which was a huge benefit in long-term maintenance of a project. If you end up pulling in some aspect of, I don't know what it is, but something that is really hard to test and really hard to work around, eventually that thing is going to harm you. It's going to be a problem. So up front, only pulling in what you need and making sure that everything is reasonably tested as much as it can be, yeah, is great for the longevity and the maintenance of a project. Yeah. Indeed, yeah. I mean, tests as your documentation. In fact, if you're stepping into a new code base, you have no idea what's going on. You can look at that test suite, and you can easily or reasonably get an understanding of what this thing is supposed to do and how it's supposed to function. Yeah, unit tests are a great way to understand methods. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so in pair programming. Um, so writing production code with two people at one machine is what this is. Um, Partners should sit comfortably side by side, sharing the keyboard and mouse. This involves simultaneous programming, analyzing, designing, and testing, aiming for better code. Pair programming is always for solitary thinking. It allows for solitary thinking when needed. So it's not like a rigorous thing. You have to sit there and you have to pair program the entire time. You can take a break. Most pair programmers, and this is directly from the book. This seems like this would kill me, but most pair programmers can pair for about 6 hours a day. Yeah, that seems like a lot. Yeah. Franklin, you're awesome. I don't know if you and I can sit and stare at each other for 6 hours. That seems like a lot. But they do say, frequent rotation of pairs is encouraged, with some teams switching every 60 minutes or every 30 minutes for difficult problems. Switching at natural breaks is also effective. But pair programming is absolutely a huge change to like I forget there's a darn, I forget what the heck the phrase is, but just like TDD, when you practice TDD, it's going to inform the shape and the look and the structure of your code base. Pair programming will do the same. Can anybody think of a time when you were pair programming led to a better outcome, or possibly not pair programming led to a negative outcome? Anyone give an instance of either? Yeah, yeah, indeed, yes. I think getting as many perspectives on a topic, on a problem, is immensely helpful. And yeah, I mean, especially when we're in situations on code or software challenges or a task that we outright know how we would proceed or how we would do this, that's like a really easy get for pair programming. Because if I can step into a thing and I'm like, yeah, I know how I would solve this, I'm really interested on how someone else would solve this, because that gives you that insight that you just don't have. And that that entire process of pair programming, by the way, speeds a lot of things up. I no longer now have to explain this code to someone else because we work together. They inherently know. Yeah, those are all great. Yes, yes, 100%. Yes, yes. Um, okay, so the final one here, the final practice that I have here is incremental design. Um, continuously invest in system design daily, aligning with current needs. Um, this design investment should match the system's needs at the moment. Design close to when it's needed for great efficiency. Um, Incremental design can be challenging concept to understand. Um, but it kind of goes back to what we were saying about keeping things testable. You know, keep your solution the smallest without overthinking it or pulling in too much that might be unnecessary. Um, can anybody, like, if you guys grasp this enough, does anybody know any obstacles or challenges that trying to uh, build software as simple as possible or with incremental design, um, you know, as a way forward, what challenges could that possibly introduce, or do you see anything standing in the way? Yes. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think this is a tricky concept to navigate. It helps with experience. Did you have a comment? Yeah. Hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Those are all awesome points. Um, and yeah, and I think we're right up to the end of my talk here. So the last thing I just want to say is, like, I would hope that you all consider applying these concepts to your work. I think it is very worth it and very useful, and I think you will find benefits, even if you adopt, you know, like 80% of what this book is talking about. Um, the last thing I'm going to leave you with here is so I don't know how easily you can see this website. Probably not at all. Not too important. Extremeprogramming.org is where this, you know, most of this source or material comes from. Not all of it, but it's kind of like explained there. And you probably don't have to dig too much into the book if you read that website. It is a very awful looking website. The thing was probably built in the 90s and then they didn't ever change it. But it has all very useful information. One thing that it has is a book list, and these are the books. It's probably hard to see in the back. They are, again, are on that website, extremeprogramming.org. And and as I was saying before, extreme programming has like many different flavors, embrace change and installed and a whole bunch of other ones. But there are many on this list that are absolutely worth digging into and reading more about. And one of them that I'm going through myself, I thought it was on refactoring. Yeah, refactoring, improving the design of existing code is freaking awesome. I would highly recommend that one. Anyway, that's all I have to talk about, y'all. I don't know if anybody has any questions about this stuff, this material, or what. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, I think in a couple different ways. One, like, uh, devoid of a company I work for or things that I'm required to do, just like me adopting this stuff, in my own practices. Um, this book is super helpful for that, but I think that like there are other books that kind of helped prime me into this position. So, The Pragmatic Programmer was another one that was really useful, and Clean Coder, which is one written by Robert C. Martin. Those two books helped me get to this. And the reason I say that is because um, a lot of what this book is talking about has to do with treating your 9 to 5 job as something greater, a little bit more of like akin to a practice like a doctor would do. So you try to put a little bit more importance into it and treat it as a craft. And if it's a craft now, then you have to adopt different behaviors, different patterns, and a different thinking about why it is you're doing your thing. So that those helped me. Beyond that, to like actually work with my team and the company I work for, it's an ongoing process. It's not always adopted all the time by everybody, but I think you just kind of have to like keep talking about it and make a conscious effort to do this thing and. And get your team on board with it. It helps. It's very challenging to say that we are going to do TDD or pair programming without buy-in from the rest of your team. So and to get them there and to do that, you just have to have continuous conversations. You have to keep reiterating about how important this is, and then you just have to make it a priority and then push for it. But there are some practices in here that you can adopt early without going in on everything, and you're still going to see a ton of benefit. Like if you just started with code ownership, I think that in itself naturally necessitates some pair programming. You're going to have to say to somebody, you are siloed. I want you to no longer be siloed. Pair with this person. Now, there's lots of other issues that introduces. How do we task out work now? Now, like everything is kind of up in the air. So it's not easy, and it takes buy-in from everybody, honestly. So I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but it's tricky. Anybody else? Yeah. Um, yes. Yeah. So it definitely does, and it definitely goes into that quite a bit. One as being a core value, but also as a practice, and that's kind of like the Yagni, you ain't gonna need it concept, and a few other ways of approaching that. Um, I'd say that when I read this book, I don't feel like I 100% came out of this knowing strategies on how to simplify things or how to do things in the simplest way. I think there might be better source material to grasp that concept. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, and to your point, I think like all practices in concert would also necessitate that. So if you're doing TDD, things will be smaller by nature. If you're pair programming, like you said, things will be smaller because you don't pull in. Yeah. That is probably how that's probably a fair comment on this book. But I mean, just in practice to say, like, here's a decision tree on should I do this or not. Like, I didn't get any of that from this book. I think that's probably in some other text somewhere else. I don't know. Do you have a thought on that one? Mhm. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else have any thoughts or questions? No. Yeah. Yeah. I'm really curious if anybody has thoughts on that. Yeah. And I'll restate it just so so we all know. The thought of what does the shape of pair programming look like with AI agents and the like. Yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts? Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Did you have a thought? Yeah. 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 I dig that. What did you, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yes. Yeah. I think that's a good, did you have a point? Mhm. 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 I dig that, but I guess I also am kind of curious about this. Has anybody been in the pair programming session and pulled up Claude or something like that and just so now you're mob programming, right? Like, does that work or is that just awkward? Have you? Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay. Mhm. I like that. That's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. I don't know if there's any other thoughts that we want to throw out there, but if not, we could probably call it, y'all. Cool. Right about an hour in. So thank you very much all for coming out. And I will say this whole presentation will live on twitch.com/DSM Web Geeks for 2 more weeks. And then it'll drop down and sit on my computer for another year before I finally upload it to YouTube. But that's the final destination that I may get to someday. Thank you.